Hey everyone. Okay, so I watched a video by Knives Monroe talking about relationship advice, and basically, you don't have to watch the whole thing. I mean, it's only Knives Monroe. He's kind of has this habit of ranting on, and you know, I can't really understand him because of all his Latino accent. But if you can barely make out his strange speech patterns, and you know, when he starts talking about lemon trees and all of that fun stuff, he mentioned something about relationships and how they can be drastically shortened by being insecure about things, and that you know, confidence is a good thing, and that if you're insecure, it will, and if you don't trust your partner, your relationship doesn't last very long. And he says that, you know, communication is the best way to get rid of this. The best way to deal with this is to just properly communicate with your partner. I wanted to say that that's a very good point, because personally I feel that it's true. Now, the part about communication is, it's not enough that you communicate. In personal opinion, I feel that you have to communicate in certain ways. But this video isn't necessarily talking about just relationships on the personal level. This is also going to be talking about relationships between the individual and the state. In that, just imagine, one day, if you're, you know, sitting around doing whatever, and then you find out on the news, like you flip on CNN or Fox News, God forbid, if you flip on the news and you find out someone in middle America walked into a Walmart with a bomb and blew it to hell and destroyed it completely. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that this would cause an even bigger panic than whatever the hell happened at 9/11. And I don't want to talk, I'm not saying that that wasn't a big deal. I'm not saying that 9/11 didn't change everything, because on a historical note, if you look at modern day history, holy shit, did that ever spark something? We had all this tension coming out of the Cold War, and it was kind of like, those years were like, everyone was holding their breath, like, what's gonna happen, you know? What are we doing? The world isn't at war anymore, and this has, like, been a whole century, and then now it's like, fucking terrorism. Never mind, we're going back to war, everyone. Okay, says the other guys. But, point is, if someone walked into a fucking Walmart and decided to explode it, and I'm not talking about just shooting it, I'm not talking about going on a rampage, I'm talking about literally explosive device in Walmart. And it didn't matter if it would only take out a few people or even injure people and never kill anyone. That would cause such a huge panic. People would just not go near box stores anymore. Without going to box stores, people wouldn't have the food that they want, or all of the random crap that they have to buy because they only ever enjoy going to one place as opposed to shopping around like people really should. Wink wink, but I digress. Point is, fear plays such a huge part in our lives that if someone really, and I'm talking like if the terrorists really did their homework and really knew what it would take to cause such a huge panic, all they would have to do is just cause some random incidents and blame it on Muslims. And frankly, I'm just so glad no one's done that yet. I'm so glad that we don't live in a world of supervillains. I'm kind of not afraid. I'm kind of overcome that fear of harm in individuals, because I know that if people were really smart, we would have been fucked a long time ago. And the truth is that our motivations as human beings are not malicious, and they're not evil. Sometimes people might be screwed up in the head, and they might choose to do things like Albert Fish, where he enjoyed being tortured and he enjoyed torturing others, you know. But that's a very small portion of people. Most people, although probably not the most friendly or caring individuals, are probably not trying to murder us. And they're probably not trying to murder our children or instill some sense of unholy terror. So when it comes right down to it, our society has an insecurity problem. And that we're desperately afraid that evil people are going to try and destroy us. America's afraid that other countries are going to try and destroy them. And in that fear, they have made actions in the past such as the Contra incident, or various other projects launched by the CIA, basically toppling dictators or toppling leaders of other countries, and then claiming that they be dictators. For instance, Hugo Chavez is actually an elected individual. Hugo Chavez, I'm not familiar with most of his policies, but has enforced that he has to be re-elected. So, just as an experiment, how much media coverage of Hugo Chavez portrays him as a legitimate leader? None of it. None of it at all. Why? Because Hugo Chavez poses a threat to the United States. Potentially. And if he's a threat to the United States, then we must make him the enemy. We must make him the villain. And if we make him the villain, then we can fight against him and we can stay alive. And that's all that it's really about, staying alive. Because you're afraid people are trying to destroy you. When in reality, it's your actions that really force people to be afraid of you. You know, if you stabbed your buddy because you're afraid that he was going to try and take you out in the back alley, then all of your other buddies are probably going to try and kill you next. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in this whole stream of conscious, kind of loose-fitting ideas, fear is a huge part of what we do. But it's not the only part. It's not the only one that we have, it's not the only recourse we choose. It's not what governs our life. Because quite frankly, terrorists are kind of bad at their job. And that people that are trying to instill fear don't really know how. And the people that are smart enough to figure it out are rational enough to realize it's not good. It's not something that we should do. It's not constructive in any way. So, I guess that's all I had to say on the subject, except for that there's this one quote by Aristotle that I've repeated thousands of fucking times before, and that it is, I know this from philosophy, that I do what others only do through fear of the law. Which is basically like saying, I act in a noble, or I act in an honorable, or I act in a law-abiding manner because I've put thought into my actions. Whereas people only do this because they're afraid that people will show up and beat them up if they don't. I guess maybe we shouldn't hold government so responsible or such a huge moral problem with what they do because we don't have to do things based on they're gonna kick our ass if we don't. We can choose to do them. I don't know. That's all I have to say. And a little bit more.